Hello, my name is host Eric, and LC has a really good topic because the reason I said it was such a good topic is because I could think of an example of it right away that I probably wouldn't have been able to think of that long ago. FISI loop is something that I would suspect people who don't have FI in the conscious stack experience, and it's more of a SIFI loop than FISI. If you have FI in the conscious stack, I don't know how that would play out, but I want to tell you how it plays out for me with SI in the fourth slot, how it links to FI. So, most clearly and definitively, the example of this is what I did with. Now, it wasn't really a loop for me. I didn't get stuck in it or anything, but what I did with Lacey's death, I had to revisit in my head a certain number of times the scene of myself driving around the corner, pulling into the driveway, staggering around, distraught, before going out to the street, walking out to the street, and where Jessica and the dog were, and picking up the dog's body, carrying it back to the bed where I buried her, and you know my state at that time of crying a bunch and wailing basically. Just sort of revisiting that scene. I had to revisit it multiple times until I had enough narrative built around it, and until I had enough distance from it, and I'd heard it in my head, seen it in my head enough times, and it made me cry every time, and then it made me cry a little less, and then it's like you put it to bed, right? For me, that's my relationship with SI and FI. If I'm engaging in an SI thing like that, where I'm replaying a given scene over and over again, maybe not all at once, but over the course of a week or two, right? It's because I have to process that emotion that I'm feeling, uh, and I don't know how to process it exactly, but I know how to access it, and that's how I access it. But it just makes me cry, and then I end up doing it again. It's not like I really learn anything. It just sort of gets less intense until it just kind of mushes out. Now that's not a loop because I'm trying to get out of FI, right? I'm not trying to I'm not trying to experience those feelings because I love being in that moment where I'm experiencing emotions. And for I think ENTPs in general, FI normally represents as negative emotions because those are the ones we recognize most. We're not attuned to emotions at all. We don't think that thing that's happening within us is an emotion, and we don't really know what it is. It's not that it's something that's not getting paid attention to at all. So we notice it when it's like what the fuck is that? It's like that kind of a thing. That's why we normally experience negative emotions. That's why we're so antagonistic to them. And also, it's why when I experience a negative emotion, I use SI to remind myself of it over and over and over again, especially something as significant as Lacey's death, because I needed to understand that she was dead, right? It seemed impossible to me. She had so many close scrapes her whole life. I was such a reckless dog owner. The fact that she did not die as a result of something I did is incredible, because she could have dozens of times. I mean, not that I was like throwing her in traffic or anything, but I left her places a lot, because my theory was when we went to the store, if it was the right kind of store and she could and I could get away with it, then she should be able to get out of the car and walk around and explore things in the parking lot. But then I'd leave the store and I'd get in the car and drive away and forget her. And I'd come back like 45 minutes later. She'd be standing there and I'd sob and I'd get her, but she was always there. She was always okay. It always worked out fine. There'd been like a call before that, we can't find Lacey. She's fine, and she was always fine. It's why I had to spend a lot of SI time with this. It is so in contradiction to my experience and expectations of how things go that the other shoe never really drops, you know, but it does. And that's, for me, how come I need to use SI and link it with FI to blah, blah, blah. Other thoughts on this topic?
Elsie says, what about FISI loop with broken narrative partial amnesia?
FISI loop with broken narrative partial amnesia. Well, I don't know exactly what you mean by broken narrative partial amnesia, but I can interpret broken narrative perhaps. The broken narrative, like you mean? Do you mean like it doesn't? It just keeps going and going and going. It doesn't get out of that. Um, like you forget that the solvency has been attained or something. I think this is the thing about FI and SI, or about SI in general. SI SI tortured me a lot when I was drunk. I had lots of parts of my life that were missing. I didn't remember huge proportions of things because I was getting blackout drunk most every single night, and that doesn't do your memory much good across the board. Not only do you not remember last night, lots of stuff you don't remember. I have large years of time that are just lost to me. But I know what SI was doing during that time period. It was remembering the mistakes I made that I could remember. I'm not sure what happened last night, but I remember doing that. And then what I would do with that is I'd say, God, you fucking loser. I fucking hate you. I wish you would fucking die. You know? I just say that shit all the time. All the time. Why don't you just die, Eric? You know? It was a constant refrain. It was a steady stream of that all day long. I wish I were dead. I wish I were dead. I wish I were dead. Shame and anxiety. Shame and anxiety. Shame and anxiety. Shame and anxiety. I wish I were dead. I deserve to be dead. It was like that when I was alone. Never would I display it in front of anybody, but um, it was. I was trying to say my Hail Marys. You see, I thought that somehow that was going to absolve me. That I had to be punished for my bad behavior. So there was no way to punish myself other than to uh, verbally bully myself. I have no explanation. There's no fundamental logic behind it. It's just something I did. That's a bad SIFI loop. That's more like an SIFEFI loop because for me it was like I embarrassed myself again. I'm embarrassed again and again. I embarrassed somebody else. Well, I mean, it didn't get real. It wasn't. It wasn't that ugly till maybe the last 4 or 5 years. The last 3 years were probably the worst. It wasn't until maybe the last year that I was consistently shooting mini bar bottles of vodka when I woke up in the morning. That I'd be at 7. If I woke up too early, which I often did because I'd be passed out by like 7:30 p.m. sometimes if I drank enough, you know. So then I'd be at 7-Eleven waiting for them to start selling alcohol at 6 a.m. to get the little bottles. Well, they sell liquor at the 7-Eleven near my house, and it's not just beer. So they had the little Smirnoff 100s. The blue Smirnoff 100s were my favorite. I like little Jim Beams as well. When I bought a bigger bottle, I'd usually buy whiskey, Jim Beam or uh, whatever whiskey was on sale or whatever. But by the end, I stopped drinking beer. I just drank hard alcohol. But the nice thing about a problem like that, when you stop doing it, yeah, there's some trauma that you incurred, but it's a different type of trauma than being victimized by somebody else. Because the type of trauma that I incurred as a drunk, when I stopped, I felt this great sense of panicked relief. You know, like if I have to ever go back to that, How old are you, LC? Can I ask you that question? I don't like to ask it. If you don't want to answer, it's fine. I- when you were in text, okay, 26, you think? Okay, interesting. Your text is interesting. It's an odd mix of stylistic elements. It's not easy to pigeonhole it. I'm used to you taught yourself to read and write. Interesting. I'm not used to encountering text and not having what I don't really have with you, which is normally I when I read somebody's text without even really doing it consciously, I form a very clear picture of who that person is because at least on writing land, I know who they are in writing land. You know, not who they are in their personal lives. I know who they are in prose land. But with you, I can't really tell. It's weird. That's probably why, I guess. Do you like to wear hats? Personal amnesia. I mean, I don't know, man. I have no idea how to address things like that. That sounds like hardcore shit. You've never worn one, but you love hats. Do you have access to hats? I mean, you've got access to the internet. Maybe you just like the idea of hats. Like trying on a lot of hats, but I never buy them. Well, I don't blame you there. Buying
It was
hat.
like me. It was like me with my intro video, where I was like, I like the idea of eating spicy food. I don't necessarily like eating spicy food.
Well, the equivalent would be you like putting spicy food in your mouth and then spitting it out. That would
Yeah,
be the analog in this, I think. Uh, interesting. Well, Elsie, please, as we proceed, if you continue being around, share as much as you feel like about this sort of stuff. I don't know how to even proceed with this kind of thing, so I'm gonna let you be in the driver's seat and just sort of guide the course of things with that. Let's bring this video to a close. It's a 13-minute long episode comprised of gold, diamonds, rubies, and emeralds. So, on your way out, viewers, thanks for watching and don't forget to fill your pockets with the riches.